at this point, you really have enough to finish your individual project. I mean, there's some things you're going to need to fill in. You've seen all the patterns. I'm not here to build everything for you, obviously. You got to figure out most of it, but most of these things are in place. Let me just kind of talk about a few things you can do to clean up along the way. So, in the GUI, one of the things you can choose to do is when you come in and click something here, when somebody hits the button, before you go and add all this inside of here, you could go to the output area and say set text to be blank. So the advantage of this one here is without this, you'd just be continuing to pop on each of these one after the other, after the other, after the other. Where in this case, because I've done it this way, when I go and run my application, let's see, is my server, yep, my server's still running. I can go run my client again. It will clear out every time I hit names. So you can see every time I hit it, it just shows me the list of names there. Without this line of code, if I just take this line of code out and I comment it out real quick, what it would be doing is it would just be appending it over and over and over and over and over and over again. So it shows, all of what's going on here, but it becomes a little bit confusing. So it's just want to remind you of some of these GUI capabilities. So I throw that inside of there. When it comes to doing the flip side, when you're trying to get not just the get names button working, but the get places button working, you double click that one, it starts off in a blank spot. But the pattern is still all here. So you could choose to create a shared method to be able to call this start of stuff, and you can have a request of names versus everything else. That'd be fine. Or you can just choose to copy and paste the code. So I'm not going to say they're both equally good or bad. So I could 100% come in here. Let me start all the way down here so I get it all. I could copy all of this stuff, and I could paste all this stuff right here, and that would do the work that we need to have happen here. That would be just fine. Slightly better would be to create a shared method. This is advanced design stuff. This is not something that's required to do well in this assignment, but I can say private, we'll say void get data from server method. I will need to add some parameters inside of here. We'll decide what the parameters are here in just a second. All right, so from that, I can take the stuff I just copied and I can paste it inside of here. Oops, sorry, that's not what I didn't copy that stuff. Let me copy this, and then I can paste it inside of here instead. All right, and so this is what's called refactoring. I wrote some code and I'm going to improve it here a little bit. So I go to the socket, and the socket's going to be the same for both of them. Inputs and outputs are going to be the same for both of them. The data request is going to be the same for both of them, but what's going to differ is the type of data request. So how do I know what type I want? Well, that's going to be passed into me. So why don't I just do this? I can say int data type and have that be passed into me. Instead of hard coding this to be names here, I can just have this be the data type that gets sent in. And then I flush the request and I clear it to text. Now the difference here is instead of getting a list of specific names, I'm going to get abstract values. But since I'm doing the toString inside of here, I can get away with that. So again, there's a couple options depending on the design. Since I'm using the toString, I don't need to have names here. I can just say abstract list and call this an abstract list inside of here. And then instead of saying names, I could say values and change this to be values. And instead of names here, I could just call this object. And this could be object. Or let's just call it value. Let's keep in the frame and change this to value. So what I've done with this method right here is to say, hey, instead of being quite as detailed, I'm going to take advantage of the object orientation-ness of it, knowing that every object has a toString, and whatever that toString comes back, I'm going to print that out and show that to the display. Now, it doesn't get me, like if I need to do something specific with names versus places, it doesn't give me that detail. If I need to ask what's the first name versus the last name, it doesn't give me that detail. But I could also do all this work and then just return this list and let the caller worry about displaying it onto the page. So it just depends on how detailed you want this method to be. Really, if I want to get data from server, I probably don't want all this stuff inside of here. So probably the best answer on here is to get rid of this and just say return, close the socket there, and then say return, oops, sorry, I deleted too much. Take that back, take that back. There you go. Delete this and this. Let's close the socket and say return values. Right there. But we didn't say return type here, so I have to say this returns a list. Right there. So get data from server does just that, gets the data from the server. Again, advanced-ish stuff here. Oh yeah, this again, the issue there is then we get into the try-catch stuff, doesn't work quite as well. And so so what I can do here is I can say return a blank list, new array list, right here. So I have to do that to make it compile because I have to return something even if there's an exception, or I have to throw the exception along with it. So if I want to hide the exception, cast the exception, I'll just say if I can't go to the server, I'm just going to return a blank list and say I couldn't get to the server. Okay, that's acceptable too. Again, these are all design choices. It's all advanced-ish stuff you can go inside of here. But I'll just show it to you. So up here, now all the code that I had, I could replace it, or I should replace it. And so what I want to do is I don't want to do any of the stuff that I was doing there before. I want to get rid of all of that. And let me move this up here and keep that and get rid of this down here. And then I can go select this stuff and hit Shift Tab and bring that in. And so I want to get a list of names inside of here. What I want to do from that is say get data from server instead, and then I can say data request dot names. So go get me the names, clear out the text, and then show the names that I got. So this simplifies my code a little bit. It makes it a little bit cleaner. So when I press a button, what am I doing? I'm going to get data from server. I'm clearing my display, and then I'm going to get stuff from the display. And then if I need to make any change to how I communicate with the server, that's all located in one spot. This is good design. Not essential for what we have going on here, but I do want to show you good design. I want to show you what how I would build this code where I'm going to be the one to do that. Actually, even better, I probably would even move this method to a class, an object of its own. I'm not going to do all that here. I'm not going to do perfect design, just do better design. I want to have this common. So that means I can probably copy and paste this right here, oops, into this right here. And all I need to do is change names to places. And then I've got my other half ready to go. So my server is still running. I can go run my client just to make sure everything still works. I didn't break anything. Get names. There you go. Get the names. Get places. Oh, unable to contact server. What happened there? Well, I didn't get any data back. So the server itself, it's fine. It just said return places. But since it didn't return any data back from me, I got an exception, an object input stream exception. I went to go ask for data. I didn't get any data back. It's not going to sit there forever. And so it cleared it out, and I got a blank list, but say I can get names again. It's perfectly happy. So we were able to test a bunch right there. Now it's just a matter of going back to my server and returning back some places. And here I can actually cheat. I can cheat very nicely here. Going back to my server, I can do a let's do a list values is equal to new array list, and values dot add. I can just put some strings in here. So this is home values dot add school values dot add work. There's some places, and then say out dot write object. And by the way, I don't want to see just strings in your assignment, so please do better than that. values, and then out.flush. So now, just like that, I can redo my server. I need to stop my old server. I need to rerun my server, get my server up and running. I need to run my client, and I know I'm throwing this a little bit quick here, but I will share this code as well. So there's my places, names of my places. Oh, cannot be cast a name. Where did I do that? Oh, I do cast it to name right here. So here I'd have to change this to be a string. This would have to be a string, yes. And this would have to be a string inside there. So I didn't do perfect coding there. I was doing quick, but that's the type of thing that happens when you do quick code. You kind of end up with some quick things to sort out. So what happened here was in my places button, I was casting everything to names because I copied and pasted this. I would have ran across this if I did some other object anyway. I had to change that to string because I could have just left it as object coming in this side there, but I didn't. So let me run this one more time just to see. So names still works and places work. There you go. And I can go back and forth between names and places. And this is the type of thing you're going to be looking at for your final assignment. So you can do much fancier than this. You're not limited to this, but here is the idea. So now, hopefully you have the foundation to get started with. You have all these videos to work through. If you still have questions, you're still having problems, zip up your code and send it to me. Or bring it to the next chats when we're going to be able to meet live starting in week 2, and then we'll go through it and we can see your demo and we can get it working and we can get your assignment up and going.